Welcome, everyone. Sometimes life changes when we least expect it. A smile, a voice, a journey. For me, that change came on a train. A train ride with a stranger. It was a quiet morning. The sky was still pale, and the sun was hiding behind soft clouds. I walked slowly toward the station, carrying a small bag. The city was not awake yet. Shops were closed. Only a few people were moving around. The train station was old. Its roof was high. Its walls were gray. A cool wind moved through the open doors. I bought my ticket and waited on the platform. The rails stretched far into the distance. They looked like two silver lines disappearing into the unknown. I was tired. Not only in my body. I was tired in my heart. I had been working hard, but I felt stuck. I did not know where my life was going. I had lost something inside me. Hope. The train came. It was slow and heavy, with many windows. I stepped inside. The air smelled like metal and old wood. I found a seat near the window. The fabric was worn but soft. I sat down. The train began to move. Across from me sat an older man. He wore a brown coat. His hair was gray, and his face had many lines. His eyes were calm. At first, we did not speak. The train moved through the countryside. Fields passed by. Houses, small and quiet, appeared and disappeared. I looked outside. My thoughts were heavy. I wondered why I felt so lost. I wondered why I had no energy to dream. The man looked at me. His eyes were kind. He asked softly, "Where are you going?" I answered, "I am going home." He smiled. "Sometimes home is not a place," he said. "Sometimes home is where you find yourself again." I looked at him, surprised. He sounded like he already knew my heart. The man spoke slowly. I leaned a little forward, trying not to miss a single one. "Do you know why people take trains?" he asked. "To travel," I answered quickly. It felt like the obvious reply. "Yes," he said, nodding. "But also to move forward. A train cannot go backward. It only moves ahead. Even when it slows down, it never returns to the past." I looked at him carefully. His voice was calm, almost like a teacher, but gentler. It was not the kind of wisdom that comes from books. It was the kind that comes from living. I thought about my own life. How often had I wished to go back? Back to when I was younger. Back to when I felt sure of myself. Back to when the future looked bright. But his words made me realize something. Maybe I was wasting time by looking behind me. Maybe the reason I felt so heavy was because I kept carrying the past in my hands. The train rolled on. We passed a small forest. The trees stood tall, their leaves moving gently in the wind. The sound of the train mixed with the sound of birds hidden in the branches. I felt something in my chest. A small light. A small feeling of hope. The man leaned back in his seat. His eyes grew distant, as if he was looking at another time. He began to tell me a story. "When I was young," he said, "I wanted to be a painter. But my family was poor. They told me to work in a factory. So I did. I worked there for many years. I was strong, but my heart was empty." His hands moved slowly as he spoke. They were large, with veins showing, and a few small scars. I imagined those same hands holding brushes that had been left untouched. He paused for a moment. The train slowed down as it passed through a quiet village. Wooden houses lined the tracks. A dog barked in the distance. An old woman swept dust from her doorstep. "One day," he continued, "I met a stranger. He was sitting next to me on a train, just like you. He looked at my hands. They were rough from work. He asked me, 'What do these hands really want to do?' I told him, They want to paint. The man's eyes softened. The stranger said, then let them paint. Even if the world does not pay you. Even if nobody claps for you. If your hands are made to paint, let them paint. He smiled faintly. That day changed my life. I still worked in the factory. But every evening, after work, I painted. Little by little, my soul came back to life. 1 year later, I sold my first painting. Not for much money. But for me, it was proof. Proof that I was alive. I listened in silence. His story felt heavy and light at the same time. Heavy because I saw his years of struggle. Light because I saw his joy in finding himself again. The rhythm of the train filled the quiet space between us. I thought about his story. It felt close to mine. I had dreams too. Dreams that I had left behind. Dreams that I thought were impossible. The man looked at me again. You are young, he said. Your train has just started moving. Do not leave your dreams behind at the station. Bring them with you. Even if the ride is long. Even if the train is slow. His voice was not loud, yet it carried power. It pressed gently but firmly into my heart. I turned my head toward the window. The train was passing over a bridge now. Below us, a river moved steadily, shining in the morning sun. The water did not stop. It flowed forward, carrying everything with it. I thought maybe my life could be like that river. Always moving. Always flowing. Even when the path bent. Even when the rocks stood in the way. For a while, we were both silent. The train moved steadily, its sound filling the quiet. Clack, 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 like a heartbeat that never stopped. I breathed slowly and let my body relax into the seat. The countryside stretched wide outside the window. Green fields rolled out to the horizon. In the distance, mountains rose, blue against the sky. I saw a farmer bent over in the field. I saw children running along a dirt road, waving as the train passed. I saw wildflowers growing by the tracks, bright yellow against the dark soil. The man closed his eyes for a moment, resting. I looked at him. I wondered what his life had been like, what he had lost, and what he had found. I wondered who he really was. And in that silence, I realized something important. Sometimes wisdom does not come in loud voices. Sometimes it comes in quiet ones. Sometimes it comes not from books or schools, but from a stranger on a train. The train slowed down. Its wheels made a long, heavy sound against the rails. I felt the soft shake of the carriage as it prepared to stop. The next stop was mine. I stood up, holding my small bag. I wanted to thank the man. He was still sitting across from me, his eyes following the passing fields. The sunlight touched his face, showing every line of his years, yet his smile was gentle. I cleared my throat softly. Thank you for your words, I said. He turned his head toward me. His eyes were calm, almost like the sky on a quiet morning. He nodded slowly. Remember, he said, a train never goes backward. Keep moving forward. The train came to a full stop. The doors opened with a sigh of air. Cool wind brushed against my face. I stepped onto the platform. The ground felt firm, but my heart felt light. I turned around quickly. Through the window, I saw the man still sitting there. When our eyes met, he raised his hand in a small wave. His fingers moved slowly, as if telling me not to rush. I lifted my own hand and waved back. Then, with a deep sound, the train began to move again. It carried him away, farther and farther, until the windows became smaller and smaller. I stood on the platform, watching until the last carriage disappeared down the rails. His words were no longer just sounds in my ears. They were written in me. I walked slowly out of the station. The stone floor was warm under my shoes. The station gates were old, with iron bars and peeling paint, yet somehow they felt welcoming. Outside, the city had come alive. Shops were open now. The smell of fresh bread came from a bakery on the corner. Children were laughing as they chased each other across the street. A man on a bicycle passed by, ringing his bell. The world was the same as it had always been. But to me, it looked different. It looked brighter. It looked possible. I remembered the man's words: a train never goes backward. It only moves forward. I decided right there that I would move forward too. Not with fear. Not with doubt. But with hope. That evening, when the sky turned soft orange, I sat at my desk. The window was open. The sound of crickets came in with the evening wind. I took out an old notebook. Its cover was worn, and the pages smelled faintly of dust. I had not opened it in years. Slowly, I turned to a blank page. I picked up my pen and began to write. I wrote down my dreams. I wrote them carefully, one by one. I promised myself I would not leave them behind. I promised myself I would carry them with me. No matter how slow the journey. No matter how heavy the bag. Life is like a train ride. Sometimes we sit alone. Sometimes we sit with strangers. Sometimes we hear words that change us forever. I met a stranger on a train. He reminded me that life only moves forward. He reminded me that dreams are worth carrying. Now, when I feel tired, I remember that ride. I remember the calm man with kind eyes. And I hear his voice: do not leave your dreams behind at the station. Bring them with you. Even if the ride is long. Even if the train is slow. And so I continue. Step by step. Day by day. Moving forward. Carrying my dreams. Alive again. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you liked the story, kindly like, subscribe, comment, and share. Keep going, be kind to yourself, and see you again on Stories by the Window.